I'd like to welcome in Matt Schneidman, covers the Packers for The Athletic. Our conversation with Matt Schneidman is sponsored by Miller Lite, Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. There is a difference. And by Rogers Behavioral Health. Matt, what's going on? You look intense this morning, man.
I'm not a morning person. I know Josh and Butchie know that from my weekly Thursday morning appearances. But I'm ready to roll. Let's rock.
Yeah, man, I hear you. So how late do you stay up at night typically?
I normally go to bed around midnight.
Yeah.
I don't stay up too late. But I'm used to, with the job I have, we don't have to be at practice normally until around 11-ish every day. So I roll out of bed sometimes at 10.
Oh, man.
12 hours of sleep almost.
That'd be so nice.
10 hours? Oh, my God, dude. 10 hours of sleep. Oh.
I'm just thinking about,
Simon,
when
you suck.
You're a teenager and you see a supermodel and you're like, oh, that's how Butchie and Josh are with sleep. Like that's the new thing. They've replaced this teenage supermodel fantasy with, oh gosh, sleep till 10. Oh,
can you imagine?
No, still have the supermodel fantasy though too. Don't worry. Still have that too.
It's like completely gone.
Even my fantasies were like, yeah, stop. That's not a thing. I was like, okay, sounds good.
Matt, is it a fantasy to have a Packers top flight running game and Jordan Love playing, I'm not going to say mistake-free football, but much better football than the last two games? Is that possible, or is that fantasy right now as you see it?
That was quite the transition right there. That's why they pay.
Yeah, he's good at those.
Thank you.
I think right now the best they can hope for is, like Mark Murphy said after the shareholders meeting, is the defense carrying this team. And I think we're seeing now what everyone meant when they talked about growing pains for the offense. We'll see how much of a difference Aaron Jones makes. I think he'll improve both the passing game and the running game when he comes back. I would imagine that's against the Broncos in 10 days from now, but Matt LaFleur said on Tuesday, we'll see. He sure as hell hopes Aaron Jones is back, but he gave it a we'll see. He keeps it vague about all injuries, so that's kind of status quo. I wouldn't read too much into that, but I think right now, Packer fans have to hope that while the offense figures it out, and this isn't just one game of the offense struggling, this is a couple games now. So I think it's fair to assume the offense is still going to be working some stuff out, perhaps even against a really bad Broncos defense. And the Packers are going to need their defense to step up. Are they able to? I don't know. They've alternated good and bad every game this season. They played well against the Bears, the Saints, and the Raiders, and they were really bad, specifically against the run, against the Falcons and the Lions. So it's time for them to be bad again if the pattern, follows itself. The Broncos are playing well on offense, but right now I think the best case scenario for Packer fans is Aaron Jones comes back and he improves things on offense, but that the defense is also playing how they did against the Raiders. But it's the Raiders. They're one of only 5 teams since 2010 to score less than 20 points in each of the first 5 games. It's no tremendous feat that the Packers defense played well on Monday.
Matt, going into that game, you were talking pretty confidently about this Packers team needing to win the next 2 games, being against the Raiders and Broncos, saying they should. So it's important that they do, looking at the schedule. And then they lost to the Raiders. How did that impact you looking at this team going through the rest of the season?
Yeah, if they had won, I would have said, okay, they can take care of the teams they're supposed to take care of. They might not be a contender, but I think they're going to be a playoff team because they have the easiest strength of schedule remaining. They'll be able to take care of the Raiders, Broncos, Bears, Panthers, and the like, and sneak into the playoffs. Now it's like Packers might just be one of those bad teams as well. They are. They're not a good football team right now. I saw something yesterday. They currently have the 8th pick in the NFL draft. Granted, they're still only a game out of a playoff spot. That's how it is this early in the season. But I think right now we're seeing that they're just not a good football team. That's the fact of the matter. And I know Rodgers said on McAfee earlier this week, the narratives can change so drastically week to week. And we could be talking about, the Packers might have turned a page. They got Aaron Jones back. They're getting healthy. If they blow the Broncos out, then they come home and beat the Vikings, who are in shambles right now. So we could be talking about something completely different. But our job's to react on a week-to-week basis. And right now, they're just not a good football team.
Can they be a good football team? Here, we saw it last year, right? We saw a stretch last year where they weren't good. Then all of a sudden they turned around and we were all thinking playoffs. Can this team and will this team do that?
I don't know about will. Can they? Sure. It's not like Jordan Love's been 100% bad this year. We've seen some flashes. Granted, they've been against, some lesser defenses. And for the past 12 quarters of Packers football, heck, even beyond that, for let's say the past 13 quarters, including the fourth quarter of the Falcons game, he's had 2 good quarters, one against the Saints in the fourth quarter, and then the fourth quarter or the third quarter, was it, against the Lions. Other than that, it's been bad, but we've seen spurts. So can they? Yes. Will they? I don't know. But if they can get Christian Watson back into the mix, he's had one healthy game on a full workload. Granted, it was a really bad game for him. If they can get Aaron Jones back, if they can get Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker, Darnell Savage, Eric Stokes back, can they be a playoff team? Yes. Will they? Recency bias says no.
So looking at that, and a lot of people have talked about injuries with this team, and Zabe likes to say all teams have injuries, so you can't use that as an excuse. But in that conversation of what is the biggest impact, is it the injuries, or is it that the Packers just don't have the depth to make up for the injuries and other teams do?
Yeah, it's tough because you look at some teams that are having injuries. We're about to see if the Vikings can handle losing Justin Jefferson. We're about to see, well, the Dolphins are a bad example since they have plenty of other guys, but because their backup running backs hurt, it's not the same thing. But a lot of teams are losing big players. I would say it's the magnitude of the injuries the Packers have had, while also acknowledging that their depth isn't great, because you lose Darnell Savage and in comes Jonathan Owens. Okay, that's, with all due respect to him and Simone Biles, that's nothing special. You lose Devondre Campbell and Quay Walker, and it's Eric Wilson and Isaiah McDuffie, who are fine players, but the Packers don't have tremendous depth. At running back, no Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon finally had an efficient game running the ball. The stat I like to use for running backs is offensive EPA per rush. I don't like to use yards per carry, because if it's 3rd and goal from the 1 and you run in a touchdown, that's 1 yard per carry, but it's still an effective rush. So it basically measures the effectiveness of your rushes. Monday was the first positive game that Dillon has logged this season in that regard. So he ran the ball better, but we've seen the drop off from Jones to Dillon. There isn't as much depth as they've had in the past there. So I would say it's the magnitude of the injuries, but also I don't think the Packers have tremendous depth at, many spots beside the offensive line.
You're next level like that, Matt. What do you think of Matt next level Schneidman? What do you think about that with what you just explained with not yards per carry? I think it's got a ring to it.
Yeah, I kind of like that too.
I've never heard of that one.
I mean, it just, it's kind of like morning mouthwash, like rinse it around,
Like morning mouthwash?
Yeah. Just let it marinate a little bit. Maybe that's one of my weirder descriptions. Rather, Matt Schneidman joining us here, covers the Packers for The Athletic, host of the Matt Schneidman show on the game. What has surprised you the most so far this season about the Packers? Is it the lack of running game, or is it something else?
Yeah, it would probably be A.J. Dillon's ineffectiveness. Now, it hasn't been all his fault. The run blocking has not been good at times, but he's in year 4. We know he's not a feature back. He's a sufficient number 2, but he's run into his own guys and not found holes because of his inability to make quick cuts or his lack of vision too often for, I'd imagine, the Packers' liking. And it's made me think about where this team is headed at the running back spot, not only this year, but in the future. I've gone from thinking, okay, this is Aaron Jones last year. maybe they re-sign A.J. Dillon. But right now, A.J. Dillon's going to get $3 million from some team in free agency. I think right now they keep Aaron Jones around because he's already under contract. Maybe he takes another pay cut, and they draft a guy early in the draft, like early in the draft, to be their number 2 next year, and then the number 1 in 2025 after Jones' contract expires. So I'm already thinking ahead at the running back spot, but this year has kind of got me thinking, okay, A.J. Dillon's never going to have it as a feature back. I think this was his last chance to kind of figure that out, and it just proves again that Aaron Jones is injury prone. He's a tremendous talent when he's healthy, but neither of these guys are going to be here for the long term.
I'm surprised you didn't say anything about LaFleur in that answer, because that's been one of the most surprising things to me, is this not just how he's coaching through this, but how he's facing the adversity. Like after one of the games, now he's all, I'm tough guy coach. And then, he's yelling at reporters and he's pissed. He's mad. And then he comes out and he apologizes for that. And we're like, okay, yeah, that's not Matt LaFleur. And just, this is the first year that we're seeing, okay, there's no Rodgers, right? So this is all of the spotlights are more on LaFleur now and seeing how he's handling. And I feel like he's being judged more than the team is, at least through these first few games.
Yeah, I think that was something that I noticed as well, how he came out after the Raiders game and was pretty calm. Now, I don't want to read too much into that. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he's not as mad or he's resigned. To me, it seemed that he was just resigned to the fact that his team isn't very good, but even that might be too much of an assumption. What's been alarming with LaFleur is his inability or lack to take the appropriate timeout. Now, there have been a couple instances where, he's just mismanaged the clock. There was one against the Falcons when they had the 51-yard field goal attempt on the opening drive, and they took a delay of game. Yes, your operation should get the snap off. But as a coach with a young field goal operation, you need to take the timeout. Because when it went back to the 56, they punted. Cost them 3 points. They lost by 1. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20. Against the Lions, at the end of the first half, you take a timeout with 41 seconds left on 3rd and 6 to give yourself enough time. If you get the ball back, if you get a stop, they get a stop. Then on the first play of the next drive, completion to DeGuara in the middle of the field, and he doesn't take a timeout, lets 12 seconds run off the clock, and you finish with a Hail Mary attempt from the other 47-yard line where Jordan Love gets sacked. And then we look at the 2 instances from the Falcons game and the Raiders game where Devondre Campbell lined up on Bijan Robinson on the perimeter, easy slant for a first down in a big moment on the eventual game-winning drive. We look at Preston Smith on Devontae Adams, easy slant for a first down, eventual game-winning drive. And I get Matt LaFleur's point, and I completely agree with it, that other teams are paid handsomely too to create mismatches and exploit teams like that, because guess what? As Matt LaFleur pointed out, the Packers have done it with Devontae Adams against other teams. They've done it with Aaron Jones against other teams, against TJ Edwards in week 1 when Aaron Jones scored that 35-yard touchdown. They got him matched up against a linebacker. It's going to happen, but you need to find a way to get out of that. And one of the ways, the easiest way, is to call a timeout. And Matt LaFleur says, well, timeouts are valuable. I get that. I get you want to have all 3 for a last-minute drive in the 4th quarter, which the Packers have found themselves in against the Raiders and the Falcons. But guess what? Those plays, the Bijan against Campbell, the Devontae against Preston, those are important moments too. And you know how those plays are going to end up. Matt LaFleur said in the Preston versus Devontae case, the best case scenario for the Packers is a Raiders 10-yard gain. That's a first down into the red zone, or not the red zone, the edge of the red zone. You got to be smarter. Don't let that happen. The clock management has left a little bit to be desired from LaFleur this year, I think.
Matt, you're the man. Always good catching up with you. Our conversation with Matt Schneidman, sponsored by Miller Lite, Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. There is a difference. And by Rogers Behavioral Health. Matt, next level Schneidman. Huh? What do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down? What's the final verdict?
We'll see about that one.
Yeah, I don't like it.
That's a big no. That's a big no.
It's a nice no. We'll catch you soon, Matt. Have a good morning, bud.
That's a big Brian Noe on that one.
That's right. There it is.
I
See you
like
guys.
it. Love it. All right, coming up next, Tanner Mordecai, Wisconsin QB.